Welcome to the Candy Shop Show. This is Candy Carroll beaming out to the universe from planet Earth on August 12th, 2015. Well, we have a sweet show today with Peter Hartgens from Pasadena, California, speaking about forgiveness. And I'm here to share lots of lovely, sweet, spiritual truths with everyone in the multiverses. I welcome blessings and protections for the Candy Shop Show and all who hear it. And I'd like to call on Sunny from California to give a special invocation, as we might get still and quiet for a spiritual sharing. Sunny?
Oh, great Spirit Creator, we are gathered here to receive the light of thy inspiration. May we be in harmony and peace and open to thy love and wisdom, and may we be open to the law of one energy that will allow us to feel that we are and know that we are one with all of life, and that healing is here and present. May the light and love and harmony bless us this evening. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. Very good.
Thank you, Sunny.
You're welcome. Spontaneous.
Well, I've been starting my shows lately with the candy jar segment. So to have some lovely treats from the candy jar. I've been recommending to my friends to use a mantra. And I feel that saying a mantra 9 times a day is very, very powerful. I've been doing this for a couple of weeks. Remember that Anastasia and so many remind us that about the power of 9. The mantra that I'm using and recommending to those who choose it is simply joyful, loving. And so I've been saying that 3 times and then, later in the day doing it again. And that's been working for me. I say it quietly so that, I can work on my breathing at the same time. Well, we are going to be talking about a lot of things about forgiveness, and I've been sharing lately some things that I've been working on forgiving because I'm trying to live in the moment. And let's see. I guess the thing that I've been working on trying to forgive, because a few months ago, it was so strange. Joan shared about forgiveness and love, and at the time I had some kind of a mental block, and I didn't really feel like that I had anything I had not remembered to forgive myself for. I couldn't think of something that I hadn't forgiven other people for, and I was so foolish when listening to her in that series, because of course everybody has something to forgive every single day of their lives. It just keeps pouring. I just didn't quite understand about what it feels like to truly forgive. I didn't understand about grudges, and wow, I've been really blessed now that my eyes have been opened further on that topic. Now today, and and it's great to have forgiven friends and family and all the big things, but today I was feeling a little bit resentful. I had tried to help 3 persons this weekend, and I spent 6 or 7 hours trying to help them a great deal. And then I hear this morning that they're talking bad about me, and I was just feeling kind of sorry for myself. And I tried to forgive them, and but I was still trying to finish cleaning up for the mess and everything else that happened because of my trying to help them. And so anyway, I have worked on it all day, and all the hurtful words are dissipating as I'm completely forgiving Tyler and Tom and Alan, and it feels good to have forgiven them, and so I'm moving on in a fresh light. Well, there's and there's a lot of other things going on in the world, but I think we should turn this over to Peter and hear what he wants to say and to lead our discussion on forgiveness tonight. So, Peter, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Candy, for those nice words and this introduction. For those who do have the Oahspe, if you want to turn to the section in the Book of Safa entitled Basis of the Vitae, or Vita, and I have the English, small English one, which corresponds page-wise to the 1891 Oahspe, and it's on page 645, and it is number 33 thereof, and it's entitled Amareth. So I'm just going to give a minute.
What page is it on?
In my English one, which to my knowledge corresponds to the 1891 Oahspe, I have it's 645.
But what chapter is it in Safa?
It's in
It's
Safa.
at the very end of Safa.
Yeah,
very end
of the Vitae.
Go through all the books, and then you after you're at the very end. I know this part of Oahspe very well. I should have butted out, but I'm sorry, Peter. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
This
I'm
is
always
one of my
looking
favorite. Yeah, this is one of my favorite parts. This whole area in here. But I'm
for those
sorry.
looking, though, look for it, and if you want to look it up, because I'm going to read the definition, and I think it might be visually helpful to see it in print of Amareth, which is forgiveness. So those who are looking, let me know when you have found it.
That's a Hebrew word, right?
I'm sorry, what was that, Daniel?
That's a Hebrew word, very well known.
I guess it may be. I don't know for sure. I know Ahiba means love in Hebrew as well.
Yeah, Amareth and Ahiba always go together.
Right. So we can kind of look at it as a Gemini thing, astrologically speaking. Anyway, are everyone ready for me to read this?
I haven't found it yet, but I had to go get my Oahspe, but go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just before Bond's Book of Praise. If you get to Bond's Book of Praise, just go backwards a couple of pages, and you'll find Basis of the Vitae.
Yeah,
what page is it on?
It's on. I'm going by the 1891 and the little British one, which corresponds 645.
645. Okay.
What's
if you're in the green Oahspe, it's going to be a lot different than that.
Right. Well, I would just say what I always do is just look for the heading. It's in Safa, and it is the Basis of Vitae, and it's in big black print.
Okay, this is Kelly, and I'm online. And
yes.
I see chapters like God's Book of Ben, Book of Knowledge, Book of Cosmos.
You want to go to Safa, Book of Safa.
Okay.
Because it's more than halfway through the book, Sapphah, and you can just or you could it's kind of hard online.
What's the name of a sub-book inside the Book of Sappho.
It is a heading in itself, a big heading that says basis of the
Okay, that's it.
I found it.
Yes, it's page 663.
And I've got the older one.
In my readings, it is verse 33, which may be 34 in some others. There's some of these they have mixed things up, but in the one I have it's 33. So I would look from 30 to 35, and you should find it in the verse. And
I might explain to Kelly that the Oahspe is like an overview of many religions, and this is talking about the basis of the Vedic religion from the East. Okay, I found it.
Peter, the part which is in Zoroastrianism and Brahmanism and even some of the Buddhist writings.
Yes.
Yeah, my dad had it highlighted, so it's right there.
Oh, good.
Hey,
yeah,
Peter?
He had it highlighted in yellow. Yeah.
Peter. I heard someone call me.
Yeah, could you talk a little bit louder or something?
I'm trying to look at this, and then because I got it on there, and I'm trying to be able to get myself in a place where I can. Is this better?
Yeah, that's a little bit better. Yeah.
I've got a better way of holding this stuff.
I know what you mean.
Right, and here we go. I'm just going to read the definition. Amareth, forgiveness, and then they have other spellings. Ana, er, thought, yima, to make oneself childlike and willing to learn, to make one's soul like a sieve, that it will not hold anger. And I'm going to read that one more time and just kind of let this sink in, because it covers a few things. Amareth, forgiveness. Anha, er, thought, yima, the language, yima language, or yimha language, to make oneself childlike and willing to learn, to make one's soul like a sieve, that it will not hold anger. And what I want to kind of touch on that, hold on a minute here, I'm going to put the book down. What I want to touch on that is bringing in also in this the concept of non-resistance, not just violence, but in Oahspe it says to be non-resistant. And part of being childlike is making oneself open to new information and willing to learn. So forgive, Amareth, basic speaks in the general word forgiveness, which we all pretty much understand. But as it goes into the definition even deeper, it goes beyond it in the sense of even what is said even in the New Testament, to become childlike, to become innocent in a sense, and be able to explore the wonder of things and not be hard in our belief system and frozen in our belief system. And again, it speaks to make our soul like a sieve, at least a sieve unto anger. So when we get angry, if we have by nature, which I know myself have a kind of volatile initial explosion thing, is to subside that explosion as quickly as possible and put ourselves in this even vulnerable position of being childlike, of being open, that in spite of this doesn't sound and make any sense to me, let me hear it. Let me see what's really being said. Let me investigate. So that's my kind of beginning take on this. The other part of this, and I discussed this with Candy the other day, and I think I may have also discussed it with Joan. A lot of people say, well, you really haven't forgiven until you forget that you don't, and the thing doesn't hurt. And at this point in time, and of course, we are always being open, can always change our conclusions if we have new evidence, is that there really is a difference between forgetting and forgiving. And I'm going to liken this initially to the physical being hurt. We cut ourselves, or we get a Charlie horse, we get something that may linger. It may get fixed right away, but it takes a while for the organism to stop feeling the pain. And when that struck me, when I thought about that, when it came to mind, I think this is very true for forgiveness. It takes time, wounds to heal. The forgiving is not holding it against the person. But words do hurt. They touch our soul. Actions do hurt. To recognize the difference between the hurt and forgiveness, for me, is a very important piece of this. So I'm just going to kind of leave it at that and see what you guys think about that. Any comments?
Well, I'll make a comment. As far as forgetting something ever happened, that doesn't sound right to me, because that's just plain stupidity. And I think the whole idea of this is more from the Kabbalah than from Oahspe, but it goes for Oahspe too, is to become, when you regain your innocence, you regain it as an adult. In other words, you've kind of been through the mill, and you deliberately reestablish your innocence as knowing that that's the best way to be, and so that's different than it's not being a child. It might be being as a child, but it's not being a child, and to just have a mental blank where something was, that to me does speaks to sort of like a retardation or numbness or something like that. It's more like sometimes people that get hurt have a traumatic experience. They can't even recall what happened to them until many years later. They put it out of their, they box it up and put it in a little compartment somewhere. So I think it's more the ability to know what happened to you, but to let go the anger connected with it, and to move on, so that the event doesn't continue to injure you or the other person, the perpetrator or whatever.
Gentlemen, I want to add. Now, I think Daniel's concluding remark was very, very good. I don't think it's ignorant to or anything negative to forget what was harmful. I think it's not easy. I think it's not exactly required. You can forgive even if you don't forget. I found that I was trying to focus actually on remembering, and I think that's what got me messed up and got me holding grudges. So there's no problem with not forgetting. And people, just like I was talking to people last week about the man who stole all my tools. Sure, I've forgiven him, but I'm not forgetting. And every time I go to look for one of those tools, that's the tool that guy stole from me. And he's going to have his consequences, and so people have to have the consequences of what they've done, hurtful or illegal, even though you have forgiven them. And
it's also the difference between forgiving the person and the act. The act is, if someone murders someone, murder is murder, and the act, that kind of act is not the issue, really. The issue is you forgiving the person, not holding it against their soul. Again, this is a process. What I'm saying, if I hit my arm and it really heals, but the pain centers haven't forgotten the sensation, as you notice, sometimes you will, and I have done it, if I hit my foot then I'll find myself hitting the same foot, because one of the major things of trauma, it leaves a heavy memory on the cell and in the psyche. So I want to continue with this and this concept. So let's say, again, none of these things, in a sense, are ironclad, because let's say you have something happens, you forgive the person, and it's unlikely that the person that you forgive is going to repeat that behavior, because they have also learned from it. The issue of not forgetting, I think, really is connected to the trust issue. If you have, and I've come across people, you can forgive them over and their behavior is the same. So we get to a point that until the person earns one's trust, you have to, we forgive, but we do not leave our guard down, especially, let's say, about stealing or something like that, or harming someone physically, or someone who doesn't know their strengths, and it takes them a while to understand that, when they even jokingly push on somebody or hit someone, it really hurts. So, again, all these things have to be weighed as to each situation, one's own growth, and there are times definitely where forgetting can happen very easily, because the whole relationship with the person, one, they're a trustworthy person. Two, that you can see that the person shows right away that they've understood where they have erred. But there's other situations where, and I had pointed this out to Kenny when I talked to her, there was a girl in treatment that I worked with, and she was really upset with another client who was her best friend, because every time she told her a secret, she would blab it. But the girl was known to not hold water when it came to secrets. And she was like, really? Well, she's my friend. I said, she's your friend. She backs you up in all these different situations. She said, yeah, but she let out this secret. I said, isn't it kind of foolish when you know that the person has an inability to keep secrets, to set yourself up and her up to tell her a secret, unless you want that secret out and it's really not a secret. And then she kind of, said, oh, yeah. So a lot of times we get upset at people when their personality development is at that point. We entrust to them a level that they haven't reached. There's another part that the more we're aware, and part of the faithless thing and in a lot of disciplines is to learn how to think for oneself, to learn comprehensive judgment, to analyze situations. So we all have this process that's connected with our growth, which is also connected with our ability to forgive, to learn how to forgive. Wisdom and love go together. So often love can have us do, as we all know, romantic love can have us do some very foolish things. And if we don't have wisdom holding on to, it can be very, exciting, let's put it that way. So I guess that's my point. I think I do agree with what Daniel was saying. And again, the forgetting is really something to go with the injury, with circumstance, with our own understanding, and its ability to wash away.
This is Kelly. I just wanted to comment on something you said that really resonates with me, and that is the setup of someone else, enabling someone else so that I feel like a victim. And I see so much of that in myself and in so many around me, that it's a habit of self-righteous wallowing in victimhood. And
exactly.
And so I think that is the key, is a self-awareness of, a common sense of who to trust, and see how I am sabotaging my own self. Yeah, and you may have better words to put it, because I'm not deep in Oahspe, but
Right, no, but this is a basic reality, and it's Oahspe talks about basic realities, and this is really what, and I think that also touches on the willingness to learn. Well, part of learning is understanding our own self. Know thyself.
Yes. Yes.
So understanding our culpability and what we get upset about when we think someone has wronged us.
Yes.
This is Sunny. I just wanted to say that I believe that we should always feel our feelings about whatever is happening to us, not stop our feelings and push them aside because we're judging them, because that can cause a backlog for years. And I know that personally. I know how that works. Yeah, so we feel our feelings and then kind of let them flow through us, and like water as best we can, and we can still hold love for the person's soul and bless them and forgive their soul. Yeah, at the same time, not be foolish about letting them do the same thing again. They're just be on, at least have wisdom in dealing with that person again or anybody else.
In a way with that, I used to tell my clients, because part of what I had to do was get them to open up and deal with their feelings, and with hurts and this. And I said, look, the only way to get through hell is to walk through it. You can't try to walk around it because it's there and it's going to get worse.
Right.
And feelings are feelings. They're not either good or bad. This is what we feel. We have to look at them, as you said, Sonny. We have to acknowledge them and then work through them. And I've been talking to Joan this week. I've had a kind of explosion in my family of my son and my daughter and my cousin and me all kind of being at odds about different things. And it's really easy to, as we were just talking, Kelly was talking, set up oneself as the victim. And I saw myself doing some of it, and I saw everyone in this play, if you will, doing it. And once you can look at your own behavior, examine your own feelings and see what part you're playing, you're halfway home.
Right.
That doesn't mean we're not going to have anger, we're not this and that, and you explore it. If we don't explore, it's the same with feelings in general. I mean, anger, is it mental, is it emotional? And, you have to examine the anger. Some people are more laid back and they don't get as angry as fast. Some people just have an explosive temper, which I realized I had a long time ago and started working on. But the initial thing when something happens, I have the explosion. I just don't want people around it to feel it, and I work it out as best I can. Where back in the day, I would have the explosion and be very dramatic and want people to see it, which is, it's not necessary. It's necessary to work through it, understand it, and then work on disarming it. So that's my little piece there. Anyone who hasn't spoken yet would like to make any comment?
Well, I just want to add something. We can have very deep-seated old programming in our emotional body to situations that we have to be aware of and work through. And I don't, for myself, when somebody gets angry, I freeze somehow. Something in me freezes emotionally, and I just I'm not good at just, of course it's probably not a good idea to shout, get angry back and have a big to-do, but it sort of makes me freeze up, and that's not good because then it just gets buried inside of me. So
a lot of people talk about fight or flight, but actually there were three things in that initially. It was fight, flight, or freeze. And that's sort of, I forget what animal does that, they play dead. And it would seem on one thing, okay, at least I'm not fighting, I'm not arguing, I'm not running away, but it is all same underneath. It's all the same behavior of getting stopped when something throws us off our center.
Right, that's what I'm trying to say. My mother, she would take flight. She would leave the situation that she found unforgivable. and rather than have a scene or yell or something, she just filed for divorce.
No.
Or quit the job or whatever it was that upset her. and since I did not fly, I thought I was doing better, but then I realized, of course, I was kind of frozen in the core with my anger.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And there's a line in I think it's where it's talking about Oahspe, the love within love that creates, and what it talks about behind everything, even anger, is love, and anger is simply love bound up. So that freezing is this inability to express what's going on, but it's still being moved by the primal reality of love. But you can't express the love, so we freeze or we fight, or we run. And it's a rather interesting point there.
I like what Oahspe says to help us understand things. They say, well, that's not unforgivable. It's just unripe behavior. And to feel empathy with, just like in Saga Patty, he wasn't being unforgiving of Ahura and the others, their lack of progress and their falling backwards and things. He was very forgiving and just realizing, in his soul that they were unripe, and he was just peacefully trying to help them ripen and
I think for
grow
us
spiritually.
As spiritually orientated people, on one level, we should not be afraid to use certain words, but certain words are loaded. And I think really the Oahspe phrasing in when we're talking about Zarathustra part, and when we're talking about Ormaz or Jehovah, if you will, there's only two states for the Creator: unripe fruit and ripe fruit, or in more less agricultural terms, mature and immature. And when we think of people who do something to us that we find hurtful, instead of going for the loaded words to try to say, oh, that person's unripe, or they're really acting immature, it takes the acidity away from it, if you will. And it's not as loaded. So it's part of, in our own nature, diffusing it. And also Oahspe talks about redeeming the past. And I think what was just said before about the programming we have emotions that have come up from early behaviors. So what we have to do, part of the experience of Amareth is, again, to learn what? Well, learn how to undo the programming, to forgive, in this sense, to forgive, to weaken, to give away this old program, to disarm it, look at it and then disarm it, so we can not be haunted by the ghosts of the past, by the programming of the past, and then we become like this sieve, and that anger can just float. But it takes work. It's not just, well, I forgive. It can be, sometimes we intellectually forgive, but we haven't brought it down to the emotional body, or even to injury that's in the soul nature. So it's a continual process for us. And I have found for myself, I think I got it down, and then something unexpected happens that really hits close to home, like I was talking about this incident with three my family members, and suddenly I'm realizing, oh man, I've got more redeeming of my own past here, externally as well as internally. So we're always challenged. I think we're always challenged. It's part of the growth. Once we've been able to conquer a certain level of ourselves, then the Creator allows us to see another level that still needs working. It's part of, for me, it would seem to be part of the process of perfecting ourselves or completing ourselves. I remember seeing this program on TV on biblical words, and they were talking about that the word perfect, the Hebrew word that's been used most often in the Bible for perfect, is really the word for completion.
Right ideas, let me know.
So that's my little bit on that. Well, I think the big question I have is more about what, like I think we were talking about before. What about when the person you're, quote, forgiving, quote, unquote, or is still the same nasty person? They're still doing basically the same things. It's like a really nasty, mean boss who treats people like dirt, and they treated you like dirt, and you can forgive them, but they're still going on treating you like dirt and treating everybody else like dirt. So that really it's kind of a difficult situation. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Well, I think there, Daniel, maybe that's a place where we can forgive the person, but until that person changes, we can't forgive the action. Even in Oahspe, and I thought this really stuck in my mind, and I think it's in the Book of Judgment or in Discipline, somewhere in the back book. It talks about if someone does something wrong, they go and they ask the person they wrong if they will forgive them, and not just forgive them, to forgive them in Jehovah's name. And that once someone forgives in Jehovah's name, that they're forgiven, or once they're forgiven. But if a person doesn't ask for forgiveness, you can't forgive them or forgive the actions. And I really do want to make a difference here between the actions. I mean, if I have someone who's my neighbor, and every time I come up the stairs, and he's coming down the stairs, he punches me in the arm, even humorously, and I allow it, and I say, well, I just forgive it, I'm going to let this on. There's a point of taking action, which is not attacking the person, but one has to make clear what their boundaries are. If the person continues to do it, we sometimes have to seek measures to stop them. And I think this is important, it was mentioned before. Forgiveness is something about the soul. I remember one of my kids, when they would do something wrong, and they'd say, oh, do you forgive me, Daddy? And I said, yes. And now go to your room. Oh, but I thought you forgive me. I said, yeah, I'm not going to hold this against your soul, but you were supposed to be in. You didn't. You broke the rules, and the consequences are you're going to your room. So the forgiveness is not holding something against someone, holding a grudge, holding I've got to get even. I've got to do something to hurt them back. Consequences and forgiveness are not, from my understanding, the same thing. A person who is by nature and has not had any kind of therapy or any kind of thing that's going to change the behavior, who is a sex offender, is going to be so, and I can forgive that person 100 times over as to their soul. But if that person is not put into a place where the public is safe and they're safe from hurting the public, then they will go on doing the same act. And this, I think, is part of what Daniel's saying. If people are not at a point of doing that behavior, of still stuck in that behavior, something has to be done. You either move away, or you tell the person that this is unacceptable behavior and that you will have to do something. Passivity and pacifism and non-resistance are different things. And being a doormat is not, and letting people abuse you in a way that's it's even unhealthy for them because they don't learn a lesson, is something also that we need to explore group-wise and individually. that in the heavens, as we know, there's order and system. When spirits, when they're doing the cleaning out of the hells or just cleanup in general, the Etherean good guys have no problem in binding up the bad guys and taking them in place of healing. They just don't say, oh, we forgive you, so just keep on running around tormenting these mortals. So all through their system and order, it's how loving, kind, and just and sane the system of taking care of the business is. So much of the criminal justice system is fringed with revenge and getting even, which is not what it should be. It should be about redeeming the people, about helping, finding ways to redo their psyche, and not, to visit punishment as such. And again, to make a difference between consequence and punishment. The word punishment has the connotation, I want to see you suffer for what you did. I would rather say, I want to see you get the light and understand so you won't want to do what you did, not to create more suffering in the world and in the atmosphere.
And we need more fairness in the justice system, just like, in the civil courts, just like the actress whose children were ripped away from her today and sent abroad. But she needs to forgive the judge for his unfairness and her ex-husband. We just need to work on forgiveness, and saying the words "I forgive" is very helpful. In your morning meditation. But also, I ask my guardian angels, my Ashars, to help me understand how to best approach this situation and how to forgive. So sometimes, it takes a while to visualize and to become aware. As Oahspeans, we're all the time praying for wisdom, love, and power. The power to forgive and the wisdom. And, of course, the serenity prayer is so important. The courage to change what we can. And what we can change is our attitude and being forgiveness and the wisdom, to know what we can't change. And so sometimes, my ashes lead me to understand that, that they were acting from maybe ignorance or fear or confusion, that they didn't really intend to be hurtful, or they were just so desperate, when my tenant left owing me 2 months rent, that thank goodness I'm okay, and they were desperate, and so sending love and forgiveness, it's just even they don't understand. If they don't understand that you've done it, at least their astral bodies are picking it up, and that's the important place where the forgiveness and love goes to.
I think that's an important point, Candy. A lot of times we may not see the overt physical manifestation of it, but the more we can send someone who's hurt us or hurt other people that we care about, if we can send them the love, the forgiveness, it gets to them, and at some point in their evolution it will take root, and it's helping them. To wish them ill is not going to help them. It's just going to increase that condition in them. And when we can understand that and understand, the other way of, as we said, what I was saying before about using the word unripe or immature. One of the initial ways that I used to do it was that bad behavior is just simply illness. It's no different than a cold, a cancer, anything else. So better that I put myself as a health practitioner than as contracting a disease, which would be the same kind of behavior. And then we put ourselves in the position of healers, as helpers. And it saddens me when terrible things happen, which are really bad, and people get killed, and then the of normal, nice people wanting so much vengeance to the person who was the perpetrator. And it's really sad because they don't get that does not help. It will not heal, and it will not make that person any better, and it won't make the mass mind any better.
I would like to hear from others on our group tonight, about some examples of something they have forgiven or what they're struggling with to forgive. So everybody be thinking about that. And does someone want to jump in first on that question? What have you forgiven recently? Well, Peter, you're starting this topic. What do you want to give an example?
I guess. Well, you were looking for people who hadn't said anything. I was looking at this situation that I have gotten involved with my oldest son and my daughter and our cousin. And again, what I was referring to before. I think I get to a certain point, but it started drudging out a lot of my own victimization feelings over the years, and I had to become aware of how I was dealing with the problem, and a lot of anger because they didn't seem to understand, and I had kind of raised them to look at things sort of like I do in the sense of being understanding, and I saw what I considered, very non-humane feelings towards other people, particularly on my son and my daughter towards their cousin. So I found myself getting a little self-righteous. A little. I say that lightly, not to look too bad. But I was really having a lot of anger and really bad feelings and disappointment and beating myself up for not getting across to them earlier with what I thought I should have gotten across. And then I kind of realized that, I was defeating the purpose here. And I really put myself, and this is, part of it's still ongoing, so this is very recent. So I just sat myself down and first kind of mechanically started my forgiveness process and love process, and then I started to really, get past my own barrier and feel it and let this stuff go. I had to, this is an old experience, I had this, my ex-wife's second husband, I found was beating up on her and beating up on my kids, and there was initial rage, because one, I felt very unable to do anything about it. At the time I was in New York and New Jersey, and they were in Maine. And then I just pictured this guy, and I just said, all I can really do at this point is forgive and love him, because he's me, we're all part of the Creator, we're all part of this thing. It may not have changed things overtly right away, but I wasn't sick anymore, and I could feel good about him. And at the same time, my ex came with some revelations and got away and got the kids away from this guy. So who knows how that's all tied together. But I know once I started to forgive him, I felt better. I felt at peace. I felt love. I felt my connection with the Creator and the universe in general. So to me, it works. When we fall into the pit, we just get out of it as quick as we can, and even if we're not feeling it at the time, I find for myself, I just have to reinforce the love and forgiveness, and then it will break down the barriers.
Well, I'm going to stick out here and say, that I forgave Vernon and Ruth a long time ago for never calling in on the show, and I forgave Guy for not calling in very much, and some other things, and that all turned out really nice recently. There was an Oahspe reader that was wanting to come visit our Faithful's farm here in the Ozarks, and so I called up Guy and I asked if he would drive him out here, and Guy said, "Well, sure, he'd love to meet the man, and he'd love to drive him out here, and he'd love to see my place in the process." And so then I called Vernon and Ruth and I said, "Could Guy and my friend stay at your place on the trip out?" And Ruth and Vernon said, "Oh, that'd be fabulous, certainly." And they volunteered to drive an hour out of their way to go pick them up. And it was just really pleasant. And it had everything all set up. And then at the last minute, my friend realized that he couldn't make the trip.
Oh, well, but at least it all fell into place up until that point, and it was uplifting.
Yes, it was. It was good. It was a good feeling of cooperation going on there. So did someone else on the panel want to say something about an example of forgiving?
Well, this is Sunny. I just thought of something that I could bring up. There hasn't been anything too dramatic recently, but there is a matter of an old friend that came back into my life and was my caregiver for a short time in the beginning of this year. And she's kind of volatile and deeply emotional person. And on a couple of occasions, she just said some things that hurt, some things that I thought were just not right, not called for. And then she said later on, because she was in crisis herself, she was in deep crisis with family members and various things, and thinking she had cancer for a while and stuff. So she was, in the throes of some deep emotions, and then she would lash out, and say things that she apologized for later, but it kind of left a deep imprint on me, and it may cause me to feel that I didn't want her too close to me, but I still kept her in my prayers, and every time a lot of times when I meditated, I sent her love and forgiveness and healing energy, and she continues to care about me, and we talk on the phone every so often, and she just shows caring and loving energy towards me. So I think that was probably an example of something like that. But I'm still wary of being too close to her because she's got this dark side to her. I mean, not really evil side, but just, she has these deep emotions that are kind of dark and, scorpion-like, can just lash out.
So, do you have any idea why she got such anger?
I think, Sonny, that you brought up something that is important here, too, that forgiving doesn't mean we're going to be pals with certain people. Even though Oahspe talks about people are more compatible with others, and we can see that perhaps from an astrological sense, from a psychosocial sense, from historic senses, whatever it is. So to love and forgive someone doesn't mean that you got to be their pal. And so sometimes we have to understand that there are people, even if they're of the same faith and belief, that is compatible with. And I think as our cosmos goes on, we will realize that that is not a rejection, people. It is of finding the circle that becomes the most compatible, which doesn't mean we don't interact with other people, but there's a comfortability there. A lot of times when I talk to people about unconditional love and, loving your enemies, and I'll say, oh, look, man, that person, I said, love your enemies. I didn't say go and hug them. I said, you could love your enemies. 20 miles away. The point is, you've got to be aware of what you're dealing with. The same thing is that if you have someone that you love very dearly with a communicable disease, that you can go see them if you have the proper costuming on, but you can't be there, just go in and run into the room full of love and devotion and hug them when they have something that's going to kill you.
Well, yes, I agree. The scorpion with the sting, from the poison sting sometimes.
We're very sensitive to certain things. Then it also behooves us to put ourselves in situations that don't make it easy for those misunderstandings or hurts to come out. It's to use wisdom in the relationships when applying love, forgiveness, understanding, and all these things. And maybe going to that last word, the more we can understand ourselves, the other person, the situation, the varying factors is part of it. Because one of the names for the Creator, the true meaning of Christ, is all knowledge. The Creator is knowledge, the living knowledge of the universe. So obviously, the more knowledge, the more understanding, or light is also another term for understanding. So the more we know and the more we understand, the more we can apply what we know and understand correctly, and in using love and forgiveness as a healing tool for ourselves and others.
Absolutely. That sounds like a pretty good note to conclude this part of the call. Or did you or someone else have something else they were anxious to share? At my home altar, I often quote from chapter 24 on page 239 of Oahspe. I go forth in thee, O Jehovah, for I know thou wilt accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
And these words help maintain the power of the Father in me. Now, and that's a very good ward to shield me in my home during the day. But if a drudge slips through and attacks anyway, then I very quickly say, "Oh, Jehovah, I claim thy fiery protection, and I know you have granted it accordingly." So we just have to work on these protections all the time, the protections and the forgiveness.
And remember, some of these drudges may even be just our own tetrarchs. Our own tetrarchs are our worst enemy, and they will appear like anything they want to be, because that is basically our own undoing.
Right.
From an astrological point of view, you might say that they are the dwellers in the 12th house, but self-undoing. The point being is that we have to, the more aware we are, and more aware of our own self-sabotage. And we live in a world now, too, that really is big players on self-victimizing and finding victims and finding reasons to have anger and to get even and all this kind of thing. And we're subject to the mass mind vibration as well as anybody else. Like Oahspe says, you might be under the influence of a neighbor or a neighborhood or certain situations. So it's, again, to just be aware, to be, using the Buddhist thing, to be awake and analyze what's going on around us and within us.
Don't fight, flight, or freeze. Just forgive and love.
Yeah, that's right, Candy.
Yes.
I thank you, folks, for joining in. I appreciate it.
Yeah, very good, Peter. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
I've got a couple of announcements. I want to say that Lance has been doing many, many, many hours and weeks working on artwork that reflects the name of Jehovah and tablets and things that are in the Book of Safa. And Sonny was one of his first customers. What did you think when you got Lance's artwork?
Well, it was beautiful, actually. I mean, the colors came across really vividly. And I have one of them on my altar and one of them in front of my old computer. So,
Sonny, what did you get? What did you order?
Well, two copies of Lance's artwork. They both had the Oahspe symbol on them, and one of them had a heart behind it. The other one had clouds.
Very nice. I ordered something.
Yeah, you ordered something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you received yours yet, Susan?
No, I haven't. What is the name of it? You told me, but I don't remember.
It'll be a day or two. Oh, well, you see, it's an original carved, wood-burned symbol of Jehovah's name.
Oh, okay.
And what Sonny ordered were prints. They were copies of Lance's paintings, and and the prints are $5 a piece, and generally, and right now he's got 3 prints available for a special for $10, and so they're like, he puts a lot of energy and power and blessings, and he created that one you got, Susan, after you had ordered it. So he was sending you particularly, blessings as he was making it and into the wood that he polished for you.
Oh, okay. I can't wait to see it.
Okay. Also, I've been promoting a lot more spiritual ideas, and I've been putting some of these shows up on YouTube, and I've had as many as 100 views, and I've started doing a show a couple of weeks a month on Thursdays, and for those who might want to join me on Thursdays or listen to past shows, I'd like to give out that number if you've got a pen. And on my Thursday shows, we'll start an hour earlier at 7:30, and Central Time, not 8:30 Eastern Time. And so that number is 209-255-1000. That's 1,000. And the PIN is 883-267. And if anybody wants to listen to last Thursday's show that I did, instead of 1,000, it would be 1099 with the PIN 883-267. And you just use the pound symbol for the reference, and you can hear the last show. So, or you can email me at oahspe2002@yahoo.com, and I can send you a link to where I am on YouTube.
Okay.
It's kind of hard to find on YouTube. So, well, that's a couple of announcements. We're going to have a roundtable discussion next week that everyone's invited to, and then Christopher Jacobs will be my guest speaker the fourth Monday, Friday, Wednesday, and then Daniel will be back with Fragatati the first in September.
Who is that other gentleman you just mentioned?
What did you say?
Who is that other gentleman you just mentioned?
Oh, Christopher Stephen Jacobs.
Yeah, what is his...
Well, he does... he does remote viewing.
Okay.
And so it's very... It's more detailed than just the kind of channeling that our group does on Saturday nights. There's a little more detail in what he shares when he does the remote viewing, so he's my guest speaker the fourth week of every month.
Oh, yes. Okay, sounds good, Candy.
Okay, all right, and this was call number 215, and of course to listen to past calls. Instead of dialing 1700, you dial 1799. And yes, I know Peter doesn't have the internet, so he couldn't look at things on YouTube yet. That might be changing, but show number 211 was really good. 212 was the round table. Sonny had some good input there, and 213 was very interesting, talking about ray incarnation and the different types of rays, and Christopher was sharing the names of the different rays, like if you were with the Silver Legion ray, or there was about 10 different rays that he talked about, and Silver Flame ray. And then, of course, 214 was Daniel Nealon, and tonight is 215 if you want to tell your friends to listen to it. Okay. Well, listen, I think that's a wrap. And I want to
thank you very much, Candy. Thoroughly enjoyed it and learned a lot.
Yes, it was a very good discussion amongst many of us.
Yeah, sure it was.
Yeah, a lot of input.
Yeah.
No.
Well, have a great week.
Okay, you too, Candy. Everybody else, have a good
Bye-bye.
week.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Have a good week. Blessings.
Come back, Michael.
Okay.
Are you looking for healing or a change in your life to help you enjoy it more fully? You might benefit from a galactic energy reading and clearing from Chris Jacobs. Chris will work with you on a soul level to clear unseen negative influences, implants, programs, contracts, and energetic blocks. Chris Jacobs is a gifted energy healer. Contact him today at ChristopherStephenJacobs@gmail.com.